Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Chief Sophia of the AmaruKhan Band of Indians, and this is our introduction to the Temple of Aries, which is ruled by Athena. So remember now, one of the interesting things about this whole process of discovering these temples is that when I say literally, they're not ruled by who we think they are. Like, this is one of the main ones. People think that our year is ruled by Aries, the god of offensive war. Like, every year is a fight, but it's really ruled by Athena. And Athena is the goddess of wisdom. In the Titan realm, she was Phoebe. In the Greek realm, of course, is Athena. In the Roman realm, it was Minerva. In Hindu, is Saraswati, and from the 12 tribes, we're talking about Simeon. Her iconography is a shield and spear. And so let's just go ahead. So if you're an Aries person like myself, who have a lot of planets in Aries or in the first house, like again, myself, you absolutely want to read this entire article. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's very long. We're just going to read, again, like with the other ones, we're going to read the introduction. We're going to take a look at her mythology and what she did in the Troy War. That's basically how we're going to go. So Athena, or Athene, often given the epithet Pallas, is an ancient Greek goddess associated with wisdom, warfare, handicraft, who was later synchronized with the Roman goddess Minerva. Athena was regarded as a patron and protectress of various cities across Greece, particularly the city of Athens, from which she most likely received her name. Parthenion, which means she might have another name, right? Which is probably Pallas. Pallas, which sounds like Palace, Palace. The Parthenion on the Acropolis of Athens is dedicated to her. Her major symbols include owls, olive trees, snakes, and the gorgonion. In art, she generally depicted wearing a helmet and holding a spear. From her origins as an Aegean Pallas, Palace goddess, Athena, she was the Pallas, right? The like, how do I describe this? If you don't have Aries, just like if you don't have the Theotokos, you don't have a zodiac. She is the beginning of it. There was no order in the constellations, okay? There was no order in the constellations until Athena showed up, until the palace to house the constellations showed up, right? So think about this on a really big scale. Like, if you don't have Aries, let's say, for example, you have the constellation of Scorpio with Aries, Ares. Well, if Ares doesn't have a constellation to go into, because there's no beginning, there has to be a beginning, right? There has to be a beginning. And Athena represents the beginning of that. So she's, okay, let's keep reading. All right. She was known as Polias and Poliochos, both derived from polis, meaning city-state, and her temples were usually located atop the fortified Acropolis in the central part of the city. The Parthenion on the Athenian Acropolis is dedicated to her, along with numerous other temples and monuments. As the patron of craft and weaving, Athena was known as Ergane. She is also a warrior goddess and was believed to lead soldiers into battle as Athena Promachos. Her main festival in Athens was Panathenaea, which was celebrated during the month of Hectombion. In midsummer was the most important festival of the Athenian calendar. And you know we're going to look into that eventually. In the Greek mythology, Athena was believed to have been born from the forehead of her father Zeus. In almost all versions of the story, Athena has no mother and is born from Zeus's forehead by parthenogenesis. And a few others, such as Hesiod's theogony, Zeus swallows his consort Metis, who was pregnant with Athena. In this version, Athena is first born within Zeus and escapes from his body through his forehead. In the founding myth of Athens, Athena bested Poseidon in a competition over patronage of the city, by creating the first olive tree. She was known as Athena Parthenos, Athena the Virgin. In one archaic Attic myth, Hephaestus tried and failed to rape her, resulting in Gaia giving birth to Erythionos, an important Athenian founding hero. Athena raised. She was a patron goddess of heroic endeavor. She was believed to have aided heroes Perseus, Heracles, Bellerophon, and Jason. Along with Aphrodite and Hera, Athena was one of the three goddesses whose feud resulted in the Trojan War. She played an active role in the Iliad, in which she assists Achaeans in the Odyssey. And in the Odyssey, she is the tutelary deity to Odysseus. So now, if you listen to my video on Poseidon, then it makes sense why, because Odysseus had her as her tutelary deity, and Athena and Poseidon always got this little beef going on, because Poseidon has a very important role as the harbinger of the end, right? The harbinger of the end of the sign, the end of the zodiac. And Athena is the harbinger of the beginning of the zodiac. And so they bust heads because people want to move forward, right? Right? People want to move forward, but they don't understand sometimes you do have to actually go back. And so we're just, again, trying to make sure these gods stay in their place. Like, there's nothing wrong with being the first, but you do not have to go and steal from what is the past either. Like, just be the first and keep moving forward. And I've been saying this too, so that's very Athenian in nature. The wisdom in that is, like, the planets go into retrograde, but humans don't go into retrograde. We don't go into retrograde, just like the sun and the moon don't go into retrograde. Right? They only go forwards. So it's okay for the other planets, right, to go into retrograde, because sometimes there's something they miss. But let the planet do the retrograding and let the human do the moving forward, okay? Like, always moving forward, always creating something new, okay? And it makes sense that Athena is the goddess of crafts, because you all know I am like the craft person. Like, I do so many different crafts, and I had no idea that she was the goddess of that, okay? They don't know where her name comes from, obviously. The whole Athens thing, she's known as the Lady of Athens. And she's always she's always shown in her war battle, like Joan of Arc, like ready to fight, okay? All right. Athena's epithet Pallas, her most renowned one, is derived either from something meaning to brandish or weapon, or most likely from another word and its related words meaning youth and young woman. So again, Joan of Arc. On this topic, Walter Burkett says she is Pallas of Athens, Pallas Athene, just as Hera of Argos is Hera Argani. In later times, after the original meaning of the name had been forgotten, the Greeks invented myths to explain its origins, such as those reported by Epicurean philosopher Philodemus and the Bibliotheca of Pseudo-Apollodorus, which claimed Pallas was originally a separate entity whom Athena had slain in combat. So they don't even know where it comes from. Let's talk about Glaucopis. In Homer's epic works, Athena's most common epithet is Glaucopis, which is usually translated as bright eyes or with gleaming eyes. The word combination of Glaucokis, meaning gleaming, silvery, and later bluish, green, or gray, and ops, which is eye and face. All right. Let's take a look at her myth. All right. In the classical Olympian pantheon, Athena was regarded as the favorite child of Zeus, the king of the gods, born fully formed from his forehead. Since her birth, she possessed great power. The story of her birth comes in several versions. The earliest mention is Book 5 of the Iliad, where Aries accused Zeus of being biased in favor of Athena because of autos Iganio, literally, you fathered her, but probably intended as you gave birth to her. She is usually the daughter of Zeus, produced without mother, and often emerged full grown from his forehead. But there is an uncommon alternate story in which Zeus swallowed Metis, the goddess of counsel, while she was pregnant with Athena, who, when she was fully grown, she emerged from his forehead. And the only reason that would make sense is if they're talking about Zeus as the planet Jupiter, not Zeus as the constellation Sagittarius. This is where all of these things become a little bit more complicated when you start trying to put the planets to them, which is why, if you notice, we've been focused on the temples over here, because when you start to get into the planets, you have a little bit of a different set of things going on. Like for example, Pallas has its own planet, a comet, whatever thing it is, right? Zeus is the ruler of the temple of Sagittarius, but he's also Jupiter. Okay, Aries, Ares, is the ruler of the temple of Scorpio, but he's also Mars. You know what I mean? He also is the planet personified by the planet Mars. Like, so there's a lot of like confusion going on, like just in general, but we'll get to that eventually. Okay, I'm gonna skip that. Well, in the version recounted by Hesiod in his Theogony, Zeus married Metis, who is described as the wisest among gods and mortal men, and engaged in sexual intercourse with her. After learning Metis was pregnant, however, he became afraid that the unborn offspring would try to overthrow him, because Gaia and Uranus had prophesied that Metis would bear a son wiser and more powerful than his father, who would overthrow him. In order to prevent this, Zeus tricked Metis into letting him swallow her, but it was too late because she had already conceived and soon gave birth to their daughter Athena, whom Metis raised inside his mind, where she continues to give him advice as a ruler. When Athena grew up, Metis formed robes, armor, a shield, and spear for her daughter. A later account from the story of Bibliotheca Pseudo-Apollodorus, written in the 2nd century AD, makes Metis Zeus's unwilling sexual partner rather than his wife. According to this version, Metis transformed into many different shapes in an effort to escape Zeus, but Zeus raped and swallowed her. After swallowing Metis, according to Hesiod, Zeus took 6 more wives in succession until he married his 7th and present wife, Hera. Then Zeus experienced an enormous headache. He was in such pain that he ordered someone, either Prometheus, Hephaestus, Hermes, Aries, Palamon, depending on the sources examined, to cleave his head open with the Labrys, the double-headed Minoan axe. Athena leaped from Zeus's head, often fully grown and armed. The first Homeric hymn to Athena states in lines 9-16 that the gods were awestruck by Athena's appearance, and even Helios, the god of the sun, stopped his chariot in the sky. Pindar, in his 7th Olympian ode, states that she cried aloud with a mighty shout, and that the sky mother and earth shuddered before her. Hesiod states that Hera was so annoyed at Zeus for having given birth to a child on his own that she conceived and bore Hephaestus by herself. But in Imagines, translated by Fairbanks, the 3rd century AD Greek rhetorian. What kind of words they be using? Rhetorician Philostratus the Elder writes that Hera rejoices at Athena's birth as though Athena were her daughter also. The 2nd century AD Christian apologist Justin Martyr, takes issue with those pagans who erect at the springs images of Kor, whom he interprets as Athena. They said that Athena was a daughter of Zeus, not from intercourse, but when the god had in mind the making of the world through the word, logos, his first thought was Athena. What? Hold on. They said that Athena was the daughter of Zeus, not from intercourse, but when God had in mind making of a world through a word, logos, his first thought was Athena. That's okay. According to a rare account in a of the story, we have to see some context to that statement, okay? In a scholium on the Iliad, when Zeus swallowed Metis, she was pregnant with Athena by the Cyclops Brontes. In the Etymologica Magnum, instead deems Athena as the daughter of Dato-Itodos. Fragments attributed to the Christian Eusebius of Caesarea to the semi-legendary Phoenician historian Sanchothion, when Eusebius thought had been written before the Trojan War, make Athena the daughter of Cronos, a king of Byblos, who visited the inhabitable world and bequeathed Attica to Athena. Attica, New York, right? Athena, born a daughter instead of the son of the prophecy Hesiod described, never successfully overthrew her father Zeus as the ruler of the cosmos, but Homer's Iliad tells of an attempted overthrow where she, Hera, and Poseidon conspired to overpower Zeus and tie him in bonds. It's only because Nereid Tethys, who summoned Briareus, Lord, one of the Hexionaires, to Mount Olympus, that the other gods abandoned their plans out of fears of Briareus. Okay? As the goddess of war, good counsel, prudent restraint, and practical insight, Athena became the guardian of the welfare of kings. In a founding myth by Pseudo Apollodorus, she is compared. I don't know where was this congestion from. She competed with Poseidon for the patronage of Athens. They agreed that each would give the Athenians one gift, and that Cecrops, the king of Athens, would determine which gift was better. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, and salt water sprang up. This gave the Athenians access to trade and water. Athens at its height was a significant sea power, defeating the Persian fleet in the Battle of Salamis, but water was salty and undrinkable. In an alternative version of the myth from Virgil's Georgics, okay, Poseidon instead gave the Athenians the first horse. Athena offered the first domesticated olive tree. Cecrops accepted this gift and declared Athena as the patron goddess of Athens. The olive tree brought wood, oil, and food, and became a symbol of Athenian economic prosperity. Robert Graves was of the opinion that Poseidon's attempts to take possession of certain cities are political myths which reflect conflict between matriarchal and patriarchal religions. Oh, okay. Afterwards, Poseidon was so angry over his defeat that he sent one of his sons, Halirrhothius, to cut down the tree. But as he swung his axe, he missed his aim, and it fell in himself, killing him. This was supposedly the origin of calling Athena's sacred olive tree Moria, for Halirrhothius' attempt at revenge proved fatal, Moros in Greek. Poseidon, in fury, accused Aries of the murder, and the matter was eventually settled at the Areopagus, the hill of Aries, in favor of Aries, which was thereafter named after the event, right? You know what that reminds me of? It says in the Bible, it talks about how they had this, God would take them to the valley of Jehoshaphat. The valley of Jehoshaphat. I can't look that up right now. We'll come back to that. They all went down to the valley of Jehoshaphat for judgment. Pseudo Apollodorus records in an archaic legend which claims that Hephaestus once attempted to rape Athena, but she pushed him away, causing him to ejaculate on her thigh. Athena wiped the semen off using a tuft of wool, which she tossed into the dust, impregnating Gaia and causing her to give birth to Erethinos. Athena adopted Erethinos as her son and raised him. The Fabulae, a work of Roman mythography attributed to Gaius Julius Hyginus, records a similar story in which Hephaestus demanded Zeus to let, and Hephaestus is Libra, okay? The temple of Libra, he's Vulcan, the god of armor. Okay, demanded Zeus to let him marry Athena since he was the one who had smashed open Zeus' skull, allowing Athena to be born. Zeus agreed to this, and Hephaestus and Athena were married. But when Hephaestus was about to consummate the union, Athena vanished from the bridal bed, causing him to ejaculate on the floor, thus impregnating Gaia. Okay, the geographer Paunusius records that Athena went to place the infant Erethinos into a small chest, which she entrusted to the care of her three daughters, of Cecrops, Heris Pandrosos, and Aglarios of Athens. She warned the three sisters not to open the chest, but did not explain to them why or what was in it. Aglarios, possibly one of the three sisters, opened the chest. Different reports say that they either found the child itself was a serpent, or that it was guarded by a serpent, or that it was guarded by that it was guarded by one serpent, two serpents, or that it had the legs of a serpent. In Pausanias, story, the two sisters were driven mad by the sight of the chest contents and hurled themselves off the Acropolis, dying instantly. But an attic vase painting shows them being chased by the serpent off the edge of the cliff instead. The alternative version of the story is that Athena left the box with the daughter of Cecrops while she went to fetch a limestone mountain from the Pallene Peninsula to use an Acropolis. While she was away, Aglarus and Herse opened the box. A crow saw them open the box and flew away to tell Athena, who fell into a rage and dropped the mountain she was carrying, which became Mount Lycabettus. Okay, Lord, so much patronology. Patronology. She's the patron of heroes. I'm not going to read all of that. Punishment. Oh, with the Medusa. I should probably read that. Okay, let me go back and read the patron of heroes. In Homer's Iliad, Athena, as a war goddess, inspired and fought alongside the Greek heroes. Her aid was synonymous with military prowess. Zeus, the chief god, specifically assigned the sphere of war to Aries, the god of war, and Athena. Athena's moral and military superiority to Aries derived in part from the fact that she represented the intellectual and civilized side of war and the virtues of justice and skill, whereas Aries represented mere bloodlust. Her superiority also derived in part from the vastly greater variety and importance of her functions and the patriotism of Homer's predecessors, Aries being of foreign origin. Okay, so Aries was a foreign god to them. Athena was their patron god. In the Iliad, Athena was divine from the divine form of the heroic martial ideal. She personified excellence in close combat and glory and was personally attended by Nike, the goddess of victory. These qualities that led to victory were also found on the aegis or breastplate that Athena wore when she went to war. Fear, strife, defense, and assault. So keep in mind that Athena, like based on this statement, we're not gonna buy into the Aries downplay here, because in order to finish a war, like you have to, it's not bloodlust, it's perseverance. And so they kind of, anyway, we're not going to just buy into that. So according to Pseudo Apollodorus Bibliotheca, Athena advised Argos, the builder of Argo, the ship on which her hero Jason and his band of Argonauts sailed, and aided in the ship's construction. According to Pindar's the 13th Olympian Ode, Athena helped the hero Bellerophon tame the winged horse Pegasus by giving him a bit. In Aeschylus's tragedy Orestes, Athena intervenes to save Orestes, from the wrath of Erinyes and presides over his trial for the murder of his mother Clytemnestra. When half the jury votes to acquit and the other half votes to convict, Athena casts a deciding vote to acquit Orestes and declares that from then on, whenever a jury is tied, the defendant shall always be acquitted. Hung jury, right? Pseudo Apollodorus also records that Athena guided the hero Perseus in his quest to behead Medusa. She and Hermes, the god of travelers. Wait a minute, I just thought about something. Why is the government, the judicial system, appealing to Athena with hung juries? Let me keep going. She and Hermes, the god of travelers, appeared to Perseus after he set off on his quest and gifted him with the tools he would need to kill the Gorgon. Athena lent Perseus her polished bronze shield to view Medusa's reflection without becoming petrified himself. Again, the mirror that is a mirror that doesn't have a gap. Okay? Hermes let Perseus his harp to behead the Medusa with. When Perseus swung the blade to behead Medusa, Athena guided it, allowing the blade to cut the Gorgon's head clean off. In ancient Greek art, Athena is frequently shown aiding hero Heracles. She appears in 4 of the 12 metopes at the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, depicting Heracles' 12 labors, including the first in which she simply watches him slay the Nemean lion after having told him how to use the lion's own claws to skin the pelt, and in the 10th where she is shown actively helping him hold up the sky itself. According to Apollodorus, on Athena's advice, Heracles drugged Apollonius, one of the 2 strongest giants alongside Porphyron, beyond the borders of his native land, where he was immortal, and then wait a minute. He was immortal beyond the borders of his native land? Okay. Then fatally shot him, compared with Athenus. She presented Heracles stern ally, but also gentle, acknowledger of his achievements. Artistic depictions of Heracles' apotheosis show Athena driving him to Mount Olympus in her chariot and presenting him to Zeus for his deification. So Athena is going to help you get the glory you deserve, but she's also going to make you do the work. Okay? In the Odyssey, Odysseus' cunning and shrewd nature quickly wins Athena's favor. For the first part of the poem, however, she is largely confined to aiding him only from afar, mainly by implanting thoughts in his head during his journey home from Troy. Her guiding actions reinforce her role as the protectress of heroes, or as mythologian Otto dubbed her, the goddess of nearness, due to her mentoring and motherly probing. It is not until he washes up on the shore of the island of the Phaeacians, where Nausicaa is washing her clothes, that Athena arrives personally to provide more tangible assistance. She appears in Nausicaa's dreams to ensure that the princess rescues Odysseus and plays a role in his eventual escort to Ithaca. Athena appears to Odysseus upon his arrival. Disguised as a herdsman, she initially lies and tells him that Penelope, his wife, has remarried and that he is believed to be dead. But Odysseus lies back to her, employing skillful provocations to protect himself. Impressed by his resolve and shrewdness, she reveals herself and tells him what he needs to know to win back his kingdom. She disguises him as an elderly beggar so that he will not be recognized by the suitors of Penelope, and helps him to defeat the suitors. Athena also appears to Odysseus' son Telemachus. Her actions lead him to travel around Odysseus' comrades and ask about his father. He hears stories about some of Odysseus' journey. Athena pushes for Telemachus' journey to help him grow into that man role that his father once held. She also plays a role in ending the resultant feud against the suitor's relatives. She instructs Laertes to throw his spear to kill Iphites, father of Antonius. All right. Punishment myths. Okay, a myth told by third century BC Hellenistic poet Callimachus in Hymn 5 begins with Athena bathing in a spring on Mount Helicon at midday with one of her favorite companions, the nymph Chariclo. Chariclo's son Tiresias happened to be hunting on the same mountain and came to the spring searching for water. He inadvertently saw Athena naked, so she struck him blind to ensure he would never again see what man was not intended to see. Chariclo intervened on her son's behalf and begged Athena to have mercy. And Athena replied that she could not restore Tyre's eyesight, so instead she gave him the ability to understand the language of the birds and to foretell the future. Myrmex was a clever chase addict girl who became quickly a favorite of Athena. Whoever writes these Wikipedia articles should be shot, okay? However, when Athena invented the plow, Myrmex went to the Atticans and told them that it was in fact her own invention. Hurt by the girl's betrayal, Athena transformed her into a small insect bearing her name, the ant, okay? Gorgonion appears to have originated as an atropic symbol to ward off evil. In the late Roman myth invented to explain the origins of Gorgon, Medusa is described as having been raped by Poseidon in the temple of Athena. Upon discovering the desecration of her temple, Athena transformed Medusa into a hideous monster with serpents for hair, whose gaze would turn any mortal to stone. In the 12th Pythian ode, Pindar recounts the story of how Athena invented the aulus, A-U-L-O-S, a kind of flute in imitation of the lamentations of Medusa's sisters, the Gorgons, after she was beheaded by hero Perseus. According to Pindar, Athena gave the aulus to mortals as a gift. Later, the comic playwright Melanippes of Melos embellished the story in his comedy Marsyas, claiming Athena looked in the mirror while she was playing the aulus and saw how blowing into it puffed up her cheeks and made her look silly, so she threw the aulus away and cursed it, so that whoever picked it up would meet an awful death. The aulus was picked up by the satyr Marsyas, and who was later killed by Apollo for hubris. Later, this version of the story became accepted as canonical, and the Athenian sculptor Myron created a group of bronze sculptures based on it, which was installed before the western front of the Parthenon around 440. All right, let's see. All right, let's read the Trojan War. All right, the myth of the judgment of Paris is mentioned briefly in the Iliad, but is described in depth in an epitome of the Cypria, the last poem of the epic cycle, which records that all the gods and goddesses, this is a war of all against all. This is a world war, okay? As well as various mortals were invited to the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, the eventual parents of Achilles. Only Aries, goddess of discord, was not invited. Now, I talked about Aries a few months ago in one of my videos where I was talking about how she was a single mom, right? And so they thought she was sowing discord, but it was like, don't act like I'm not also beautiful just because I'm a single mom. I went into detail on this. All right. She was annoyed at this, so she arrived with a golden apple inscribed with the word Callisti, for the fairest, which she threw among the goddesses. Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena all claimed to be the fairest. Now, this is interesting because Aphrodite and Athena are side by side. Athena is Taurus. It rules the temple of Taurus. And, Aphrodite rules the temple of Taurus, and Athena rules the temple of Aries, and Hera rules the temple of Aquarius. So they're all very close together, okay? The goddesses choose to place the matter before Zeus, who, not wanting to favor one of the goddesses, put the choice into the hands of Paris, a Trojan prince. It was really Hermes. But anyway, after bathing in the spring of Mount Ida, where Troy is situated, the goddesses appeared before Paris for his decision. In the extant ancient depictions of the judgment of Paris, Aphrodite is only occasionally represented nude, and Athena and Hera are always fully clothed. Since the Renaissance, they tried to say it was naked. Okay, all three goddesses were ideally beautiful, and Paris could not decide between them, so they resorted to bribes. Okay, this is why. Okay, let me just pause here. This is why you do not take bribes from gods. Okay, they're not thinking like humans. So they're not thinking like humans, so they will offer you things that you cannot have. Like, you can't have it. So don't take bribes from gods. Just ask to help with this, you have to stay focused on what you want and get them to help you with what you want. Do not take their bribes. Do not take you can take their advice, obviously, but do not take their bribes. Like, if they want you to do something, do it for free. Like, I produce these videos out of my own free will. Like, I'm not asking for no bribes. I'm asking for security guarantees. That's not a bribe. I set the terms. You always want to set the terms when you're dealing with these entities. You cannot let them set the terms, give you an idea of what you can have. You set the terms. And let them bring you what you ask for. Because if you're a king or a queen, that's what would happen. You don't let the peasants set the term for you. And not that these gods and these entities are peasants, but just think of the relationship. If you're the one who's with the body and they don't have bodies, you cannot let the ones without bodies set the terms. You have to set the terms. And let the ones without the bodies grant you what you ask. Like, please be safe out here in these spiritual streets. All right. Hera tried to bribe Paris with power over all Asia and Europe. Athena offered fame and glory in battle. Now, mind you, Asia and Europe were already inhabited. Athena offered fame and glory in battle. There was no battle. He wasn't even fighting a battle. But Aphrodite promised Paris that if he were to choose her as the fairest, she would let him marry the most beautiful woman on earth. Why would you offer another person? You can't do that. I mean, hopefully we'll get to this when we talk about Aphrodite. This woman was Helen, who was already married to King Menelaus of Sparta. Paris selected Aphrodite and awarded her the apple. The other two goddesses were enraged and, as a direct result, sided with the Greeks in the Trojan War. This is why Troy lost. He went for love over wisdom. Love and wisdom go together, like literally. Aphrodite and Athena are together. Love and wisdom go together. You do not separate love from wisdom. What you can separate is land from love and wisdom, right? So if he would have chose Hera, that probably would have been the best choice. But you do not ever separate love from wisdom. That's what these people who I call sophists are. They have wisdom with no love. So we do not want Athena to be fighting with Aphrodite. They're sisters. They're right beside each other. They need to work together. We cannot have wisdom without love. First we get the wisdom, then we get the love. Paris did it all out of order. He should have did wisdom and then love and then land. Okay, that's the order it is in the zodiac. Wisdom, Aries is first. Aphrodite is second, and then land. We should really take that into account, because when you choose love over wisdom and land, guess what happens? You can be given something that's not yours. And if it's not yours, it's not yours. Period. All right. In books 5 and 6 of the Iliad, Athena aids the hero Diomedes, who, in the absence of Achilles, proves himself to be the most effective Greek warrior. Several artistic representations from the early 6th century may show Athena and Diomedes, including early 6th century BC shield band depicting Athena and an unidentified warrior riding on a chariot. A vase painting of the warrior in his charioteer facing Athena and inscribed clay plaques showing Diomedes and Athena riding in a chariot. Oh, by the way, the Greeks win the war, the battle of Troy. So why it's not called the battle of... It's called the Battle of Troy because it happened in Troy, but the Greeks win. So it's another weird thing. Okay? Alright. While Achilles is chasing Hector around the walls of Troy, Athena appears to Hector disguised as his brother Dephobus, and persuades him to hold his ground so that they can fight Achilles together. Then Hector throws his spear at Achilles and misses, expecting Dephobus to hand him another, but Athena disappears instead, leaving Hector to face Achilles alone without his spears. In Sophocles' tragedy Ajax, she punishes Odysseus' rival, Ajax the Great, driving him insane, causing him to massacre the Achaeans' cattle, thinking he is slaughtering the Achaeans himself. Even after Odysseus himself expresses pity for Ajax, Athena declares, "To laugh at your enemies, what sweeter laughter can there be than that?" Ajax later commits suicide as a result of his humiliation. So listen, Athena ain't the one to play with, okay? People who have Aries in their chart, they're not the ones to play with. They gonna laugh at you while you're down. They will. They will. And so don't mess with Athena. Like, don't mess with her. Like, do what needs to be done. Of course, obviously, accept the wisdom and all of that. But don't accept no bribes from no gods. Just don't keep Athena in her place. She is the goddess of war, wisdom, battle, starting battles. Like, that's her thing. Like, she'll finish it though, but her finishing it, to me, is just as cruel as Aries. So I don't know why they try to make it sound like she's not just as cruel as Aries, but that's kind of insane. So don't buy into the hype, man. She's nothing to play with. And so if you have a lot of Aries in your chart, please come graciously to the temple of Aries, to the temple of ruled by Athena, and don't take no bribes, okay? Just don't take any bribes from them. That goes for all of them. Don't take any bribes from them, okay? That's my suggestion. So, shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.